Ghost Recon Breakpoint, a game that was riddled with bugs, frustrated players, and bad reviews, often criticized for its connection issues and new gear level system. The future of Breakpoint looked uncertain right from its launch in October of 2019. Some felt outraged by how different Breakpoint felt compared to Wildlands. Others were angry that the game even included Ghost Recon in the title. So what did Ubisoft do when thousands of gamers provided feedback and criticism? They listened. Update 2.0 was the largest update that Ghost Recon Breakpoint has received and included changes that were commonly asked for by fans everywhere. The option to play without gear level and tiered loot, along with changing the camera settings, were amongst the most requested features, and Ubisoft delivered. But did they get it right? This is my experience. Let me begin by saying that I had very mixed feelings when I tried out Breakpoint for the first time during the open beta. I was a huge fan of Wildlands, so I expected Breakpoint to feel like a good sequel. What I got was a big disappointment. Gameplay felt lonely without AI teammates, some enemy encounters felt impossible to win, and I was somewhat confused by the new gear level system. Instead of getting a sequel to Wildlands, I got a completely different game full of bugs, and it didn't take long for me to forget about Breakpoint almost entirely. In fact, I just about uninstalled Breakpoint, and that's when everything changed. Patch 2.0 was released, and it sounded like Breakpoint was gonna get a whole lot better. I decided to give the game another shot and take full advantage of the new changes that were made. The change I was most excited about was the ability to change the camera distance. Before, it was always way too close to my character, and most of the time I could only see half of what was in front of me. Now I can move the camera further back and the visibility is so much better. With that being said, the camera angle would be better yet if there was a way to raise it a bit higher. I find that whenever I'm in a building, the camera still bunches up on my character, which greatly reduces my visibility when I need it most. All in all though, it's still an improvement, and a higher camera angle is just my personal preference. Next, I want to talk about Breakpoint's new stability. After Update 2.0, I haven't experienced a single game crash. This makes me so happy, because before, it always seemed to crash right before I finished a difficult objective, pretty much making the game unplayable. Now, I can fly high in a helicopter and enjoy fast-moving scenes without any worries. Now, for those of us who are big fans of Wildlands, this next change has us very happy. The option to play Breakpoint without gear level offers a very familiar experience. While I was playing around with the new immersive mode, I enjoyed the fact that I didn't need to keep swapping out my gear with less attractive options just to increase my gear level. I was able to use the weapons I liked for as long as I wanted, and I could finally focus on all the action instead of spending large amounts of time swapping gear in my inventory. There is one small issue with the new immersive Ghost mode though, and that is not being able to dismantle weapons for parts. You need parts in order to upgrade your weapons, but to do this, you have to turn gear level back on and then break down equipment for upgrade components. These were the three main changes that really stood out to me, more so than the other additions like the new engineer and echelon classes and more weapon attachments. If you would like to read more on everything else Breakpoint has added, I'll put a link to the official patch notes down in the description below. Now, I want to spend a bit of time talking about whether or not you should buy Ghost Recon Breakpoint, because it is a very unique game with a unique feel, and while it can be incredibly fun, it may not be for everyone. At a first glance, Breakpoint looks like a cross between the Division series and Wildlands, and while I appreciate developers who try new things, I never thought that RPG elements really had a place in Breakpoint. Now, as I said earlier, you can choose to cut out gear level completely, but you will need to enable it if you want to participate in raids and experience Breakpoint as a whole. The funny thing here is that enabling gear level doesn't really change the combat at all. Enemies still die from a single headshot, and there are no hit points or armor ratings at all. Gear level just sort of exists in the game, and perhaps those who enjoy RPGs will enjoy the rarity color of certain equipment or the satisfaction of obtaining a high gear level. Breakpoint is a very tactical game where every encounter requires some degree of planning. This is something that took me by surprise when I started playing because Wildlands was relatively simple. Mark enemies, sneak around, and interrogate the bad guy, and that was the majority of the game. Nothing required a ton of thinking, but in Breakpoint there is much more to be aware of. Now, there are powerful drones to avoid, soldiers with explosives on their backs that will explode when shot, and objectives that require brute force in order to reach. You can change your class at a bivouac depending on upcoming missions, and each class has their own special piece of equipment, and all of this adds up to a very exciting experience if that's what you desire. The choices are endless, and I feel like no matter what kind of player you are, you will find enjoyment depending on how you play the game. Before I wrap up this video, I want to address some little things that I hope Ubisoft fixes in future patches. First thing is the character movement. I enjoy how realistic it is, like when you begin sliding down a steep hill, but it also feels extremely, well, clunky for lack of a better term. Getting behind cover and inching towards a base jump are way harder than they need to be, and I really hope that there's a way to improve the movement mechanics somehow down the line. My next issue is with the goddamn flying drones. Like, what is up with these things? They're difficult to avoid, and when you shoot them down, they alert the entire area, which kind of throws the entire stealth tactic out the window, am I right? Other than that, though, I've actually grown to really enjoy Breakpoint. I absolutely love exploration mode, where you need to read clues in order to find objectives on the map, and I really enjoy preparing for an assault by picking the most effective class and weapon combination. On that note, it is time to end the video, but I will say if you haven't played Breakpoint before, I highly recommend it, but only if you see it on sale. And for those of you who walked away from Breakpoint like I did, give it another shot and you might just like it now. Thank you so much for watching. I put a lot of time and effort into making this video, so any feedback helps me make the next video a little bit better. Happy gaming from DDub TV.